Hello, hi. My name is Justin Watson. I'm a partner in the UK Consulting Finance Transformation practice, and I lead our business with energy and resources clients. Now, it's interesting day to day when I work with CFOs in my business that more and more we're turning to recent developments in the business partnering question. And I think what's interesting about that for me is we've always had that issue at the back of our minds. We've always known about this business partnering question, but we've treated it in a different way. So historically, it's been more of a residual question when we've been thinking about things like shared services, outsourcing, or process-based optimization. I think the really interesting thing now is we're beginning to think about, well, that retained organization, what is the true value that that organization could bring to the business? And that is why business partnering is becoming so important. When we look at the change in emphasis that we see in finance functions, there's clearly a whole multitude of issues that could be on one's mind at this time. I think, though, what's interesting is that there are three clearly recurring themes when you talk to any particular CFO about really what keeps them awake at night when they're thinking about business partnering. The first of those, very sadly, is finance systems, which is an age-old issue, but one that we keep needing to come back to. It is very clear that to properly enable effective business partnering, allowing business partners to make effective and informed decisions, they need access to credible and accessible information. In our research recently, it was very clear that over 60% of companies felt that they actually didn't have access to systems that were able to deliver that to their business partners. That is a very important and significant issue, and one that CFOs really are addressing fairly aggressively. I think the second issue that really stands out has to be talent. To be a business partner requires different skills from those that are required in the back office and finance. One absolutely needs to understand the business that you're working with. You need to really understand the market that that business is operating in. You need to be credible, you need to be articulate, and you need to be highly proactive. Those aren't skills that you find everywhere in the finance organization. And I think the interesting consequence of some of the work I've done with CFOs in business partnering is that at some point one has to make painful choices. And then I think the third area that's really interesting is about where finance creates value in the organization. And this is always a very, very interesting negotiation with the business itself. For me, and what's become clear from our research is that around 40% of the organizations we talked to in our Changing the Focus research told us that actually they weren't particularly clear where they were creating value for the organization. Now, that is a very significant gap, and clearly it creates a problem in negotiating with the business where you're going to allocate appropriate resources in finance to really drive business performance. So when we consider in the round all those changes that are taking place for finance and in markets generally, the real question is what kind of responses are we seeing in the marketplace to those? And again, I think there's probably three or four that are really important. The first in systems really has to be the growth of business analytics. We find our clients wanting to find new technologies, new processes, new methods, new ways of being able to interrogate very large data sets. And so very significant investments are going into how do we drive new analytical platforms to help us understand simply what we're doing in a complex world. As it relates to talent, I think clearly this is an area of very significant focus. And what we try to do with our clients is to encourage them to think about the life cycle of an employee. So firstly, what is the value proposition for a business partner? And secondly then, how do we recruit, retain, and manage the performance of people who have quite a different set of requirements placed on them than a traditional finance operator might have? And thirdly, as it relates to value, what we find our clients typically trying to do from a finance perspective is to spend a good deal of time with the business really trying to understand what is generating value for that business. In my own business in energy and resources, a lot of that is about how are you acquiring the right assets? How are we divesting elements of the portfolio that no longer make commercial sense to own? Where are we buying? Where are we selling? And what are we thinking about in terms of building the infrastructure we need to exploit the assets? Those are all very, very interesting questions. What's surprising is that very few organizations actually have written those things down and allowed themselves to get into a place where finance can negotiate a position with the business for the role they're going to play. That's where we see our clients investing a lot of time at the moment.